So we're on to chapter 3 about falling in love. I remember when I first read this book, this chapter was quite impactful for me because of the research that Gary Chapman cites that found that in general, there's a maximum 2-year time frame for the Twitter-pated love, the chemical super in love feeling. And I remember that was quite insightful for me at the time that I read it to understand that there's a biological clock on the time frame of just feeling the head over heels Twitter-pated in love. So he explains that there is essentially biological triggers, a biological clock that triggers this euphoria of the sense of the in love feeling. And at that point, as a person has grown up and they've seen the various things, Romeo, Juliet, all the different romantic things in our society that talk about how awesome it is to be in love, then of course people are feeling different, like, wow, is this the real thing? Is this in love? And he points out that at the end of the day, that's not the primary indicator of marital success. Is that feeling of euphoric in love is not the biggest deal. It's a wonderful thing when it happens, but it also causes everything else to fall by the wayside as a person's total and complete focus goes to the object of their affection. And so he points out that once that biological clock finishes, you go from the period of complete confidence and trust in the other person, complete feeling of euphoria, complete feeling of they're amazing, I'm amazing, we're amazing, this is so cool, to then resuming logical thought and saying, wait, how did I get into this? Why am I here? Like what was I thinking? As more logical thought resumes. And really it's at that point that there's a choice to make. As he explains it, are you going to choose at that point to intentionally fill your partner's love tank? Are you going to intentionally choose to love them proactively as a verb, as an action, not just a feeling of euphoria and a feeling of intense twitterpation, but as I chose this person, I am choosing to love them, to speak their love language, and to help them feel amazing because of how I'm looking after them and caring for them. Something that he points out there is that one of the key facets of Twitter-pated love, of that chemical feeling of being in love, is that it causes a sense that we're good enough where we are, that we don't need to grow, both on the part of the individual and your perception of the other individual. It gives you the feeling, the perception that you're perfect and that the other person is perfect as well. So why would you ever need to change, or why would they need to change? Whereas when that sensation, that feeling wears off, you see faults, you see your own weaknesses and their weaknesses, and life gets harder again. I really wanted to key in on that sensation of feeling like you're enough and like they're enough, and how to deal with that being gone at the point that that wears off from the feeling of being in love. In Ephesians 5:33, it says, nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. So we see there a referring to the husband's need to love their wife and the wife to reverence their husband. And of course, in our society today, the concept of reverence has gotten muddied. It's not quite as clear as maybe it used to be. And there's another book by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs called Love and Respect. And in that book, he takes that verse out of Ephesians and uses the words love and then puts the word respect there for reverence. The whole idea that the man needs that feeling of respect, the woman needs that feeling of love. In my work with people, as I've coached and helped couples over the years, I find that even those words are a little bit abstract. They're a little bit difficult sometimes for people to wrap their head around, particularly once you look at the 5 love languages. When you look at different ways that people give and receive love, different ways that people give and receive respect. So, with those concepts in mind, I share more than just the giving love or the giving respect, the objective of the action. And that objective is based on deep needs that each of the marital partners has. So my observation is this, that the woman has a deep need to feel like a precious treasure. And the husband has a deep need to feel like a hero. And so as you work through showing love, showing respect, your objective is to cause them to feel that way, because when they feel that way, their love tank fills up and great things occur. I call this concept the silent emotional covenant. It's emotional because it's based on deep-seated needs that each of the marriage partners has. It's silent because most of the time we don't talk about it. Culture in general doesn't talk about it. It's not a common thing. It's just kind of expected. You're supposed to know it. And either you know it and magic is there, or you don't know it and it's not. And the reason it's a covenant is because it's a two-way promise. Most of the time, by default, a side effect of the sensation of being in love is that he feels like a hero and she feels like a precious treasure. And in many ways, during the early courtship phase, during the honeymoon phase, etc., people feel that way. Yeah, he absolutely is her hero. She is his precious treasure. But then when the feeling of being in love fades off, as Gary Chapman explains that it does, then you have to be more intentional about making sure that you're helping them feel that way. And I've even found that to be a critical question in helping couples who are very much struggling in their marriage. Is I'll say to them, hey, I see that you're really struggling, and I recognize that today you don't feel this way. But if I'm talking to the wife, I say, but are you willing to treat him like he's your hero? I know that's not how you feel today. I know he doesn't seem like a hero. I'm not asking whether he's acting like a hero today. I'm saying, are you willing to treat him like a hero? And on the other side, if I'm talking to the husband, are you willing to treat her like your most precious treasure? And if there's willingness to try, then we have something to work with. Because if there's willingness to try, then you can learn about each other, learn what each other's love language is, learn how to intentionally fill the love tank by doing those things that help them respectively feel like a precious treasure and a hero. And so just the essence of this chapter from Gary Chapman is that the feeling of being in love is temporary. So at some point, you reach a point where you need to choose if you're going to fill your partner's love tank. That's the essence of kind of this 3-chapter introduction that he's done to the book. And so then in the next several chapters, we'll dig into each of those love languages and how they're expressed most commonly. And as always, the links to the scripture references and books I reference in the video are available down below in the description.